Hello, hello, it's me again, MetaVerse Explorer. I'm back with an interview, this time with some prominent Aephian members. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we've got a nice topic that it might interest some Star Atlas community members. We've got Victor and we've got Stratugo. So Victor, can you tell us about yourself first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting us. And I'm Victor. I'm Generation X, as you might see, and I studied economics, and one of my majors was monetary policy, and went to crypto in 2017 and joined Aephian, I think right about when they started a year ago.
Nice.
And and I thought 2 months when we were really in the bear market, I thought, okay, I want to do something else, and started with some blockchain analysis and was really happy to stumble into Stratugo, because I'm not a coder at all. I just do general economic stuff, and he can really go into the complicated things. So
this sounds like a dream. You guys got together and you made a little baby together. Stratugo, right. What about you? Where'd you come from, and how'd you meet Victor?
I have an engineering background. I'm working in IT since 15 years. I'm like doing a lot of side projects. I went into crypto by mining some Chia coins, staking some stuff. And then once a friend of mine told me did you hear about this project, Star Atlas? And I had no clue about it. Then I checked on YouTube and I got actually a video of MetaVerse Explorer.
Oh, really?
Cool. And same moment I joined Star Atlas and I applied for the Aephian. Because it looked very, very cool. And actually that gave me the possibility to get very deep into the Solana blockchain, which was something I wanted to do. I just saw that the first time how fast it was, and I said, okay, wow, okay, that's definitely a game changer, and I want to be part of. And of course, the Web3 is amazing for me to get into and just, have fun.
Like seeing coming from Ethereum myself as well. Like once I went to Solana, I'm not going back to Ethereum at the moment. Like even merge or no merge, I mean, it's just so much better user experience for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So thank you guys very much for your introductions. You guys watching at home, all you Aephians, make sure you like and subscribe, because these guys have some great information for you. We're about to get started in this. So we have, tell us first, give us an introduction to what you guys have created and what are you going to be doing for Aephian and for the Star Atlas community. So maybe Victor, you can tell us.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we were interested just to see what is happening on the blockchain, what users are doing in preparation for Scream. We knew from Chipto, from the town halls, that they were saying Scream will be like a gigantic chess match, so everything will be on the blockchain, every information. And we thought, okay, it would be nice to prepare for it as a guild or even as a player, to get more deeply into blockchain. So we are analyzing transaction data. That's what I can do with my simple tools. And Stratugo can then also communicate with the smart contracts or the Solana programs to get also some information there. And that is what we're analyzing. At the moment, we thought we looked at adoption and active users, and but then also started to look at some faction data. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so it seems like you've taken the initiative to look at to scrape some of the data that's available on the blockchain, and you've been able to make some we've made a presentation for that, right? And that's what we're going to get up now. Now, I'm just curious, are you guys the first Aephian Data Runners?
We are, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's get started into it, shall we? We have the Aephian Data Runners, Victor and Stratugo, the Star Atlas report of statistics and analytics for August of 2022. Now, there's a whole bunch of information here. We can see on the users here, but first, before that, all of this information, how did you guys actually come to it? How did you start building this?
Well, the idea was to build a machine, a bot that is capable to scrape all the data from different sources and aggregate them. I set up a database where I can just store all the information, and I'm updating like 24/7 it. And thanks for that, I was able to query it and be able to get some insights. Of course, the idea of the data, as I don't know if they are right. We always cross-check with Victor if the data that I collected is real. Like we can follow in some cases some scenarios which are kind of weird to us, and then for that we do some investigations and find out some interesting behaviors out of the market. So that's the way is the loop of data collection that we have. Observe the market, collect data, validate this data across the market. Yeah.
Well said there, man. I think you can't really just take data like in isolation. You have to really look at it afterhand and try and validate it using other third-party sources.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you guys there, in the middle of the screen on July 31st, 266, what's that number there?
Yeah, it was the peak for the month we are looking at, and it was actually interesting because we had two events in that time frame. We had like the COPA on the 16th of June, and we had the first 4 to 6 event on the what was the date again? I'm not quite sure.
I remember, it's been so long now.
Somewhere around the July, end of July, on the 21st, right? So that is where the peak actually is. So we see that the COPA event didn't put in much new users, but the 4 to 6 event was better. But on the other side, we have to see those numbers are quite low at the moment. So hopefully we see totally different numbers when Scream is launching, because in the beginning of the year when Score started, we had like thousands a week. So this is quite low at the moment, what we are seeing. So the fluctuations we are seeing don't do too much interpretation. It's just something to show that is what people are doing at the moment. Yeah.
And on the second page here, we've got the decrease in user amount. What's happening with the drawdown here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a drop down, but I would, for example, I would say that the first number, the adoption, that is not looking too good because the numbers are low. This one is also going down, so it's not bullish. We want to see it up, of course. But we're still having like 20,000 people that are still active. So I would say that's pretty good, yeah. Comparing that we are in a bear market, yeah. And it's even more interesting if you look at daily numbers, because we have like 10,000 people daily refilling their fleets, clicking the buttons, yeah. And I think that's quite okay, yeah. So yeah.
Now, I just want to touch on something you said there. We do know, like, you can tell that there's 10,000, people, quote unquote, trying to refuel their ships and stuff. But these could be actually like just different accounts.
No, it actually isn't.
It could be different accounts that are just trying to, keep a ship there.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll head on over to the second page here. There's a whole bunch of numbers here. Tell us what's happening on this page.
Yeah, sure. So we are doing an estimation here because we're not looking at what people are holding in their wallets. We are looking at the number of staked ships. And we know that around 90% of all ships are staked, and 95% of the value of all ships are staked. So it's a pretty good estimation to see what people are holding actually also, yeah. And and I think maybe two interesting points are to look on the one side, what is the ship with the biggest VWAP we are looking at, here. So this table is all in VWeb, and it's the Pierce R8, which is interesting. So it's not the tree arrow or the really big ones. So the biggest VWeb total value is with a Pierce R8. And another thing that is interesting is maybe that, of course, it's going down. So the ship distribution is not very even, because when Atlas price was going down, ships were getting cheaper in USDC. So people bought all the old ships, and they are not buying the new ships that are coming at origination prices. So that's another thing that is quite obvious that we are seeing if we are looking at the right column, for example, that all the newer ships are not bought very much. And not
So you, like, if we go over to the right hand side here, the Ogrica Tursik, the Thimble Mamba, the Solos, the Ogrica Sampa, none of these ships have really been selling, because it makes no sense to actually be buying a ship for the VWAP price, full price, when there's a similar ship with a giant discount that's there waiting for you. But that's okay. It's just something I thought I'd mention. And now on the next page here on the stakes ships, we can see here there's a giant kind of segment just dedicated to the fighter ships, right? Tell us a bit more what's happening here, Shritugo.
But it is clear also, because if you think about the match of the ships in the field right now are fighters. Like, it was clear that it was a preparation also probably to scream, to get, first the ships that can have guns. But I believe that our player cohort is also thinking about on a long term, and thinking about, okay, which could be really the ship that might have a better return of investment. Also because not every player wants actually to get Dutch fighting and stuff like that. People are coming also from crypto, so they might need something different. And so that's how can I assume that the reason, which could be the reason about that. And another driver, which is not pictures there, but also the return of investment of the single ship, which also can be a driver to why we have such a different type of distribution.
I think it was not going as it was planned. So I think they thought, okay, we're offering ships over the time, and they are bought up by the same amount. So we have a more even distribution. Because if you look, for example, we know the biggest faction also with players registered is the MUD faction.
Yes.
If we count all the MUD manufacturers, so Pierce, Calico, and Opal, we have nearly 50% of all ships at the moment is within the MUD faction. So I think this could be interesting if we later on produce our own ships. We have most of the players in MUD, but they also have the biggest ship size already on the market. So it could be interesting to build ships with blue prints in Oni and Uster faction, actually, because they are much more rare, or they will be, because of that uneven distribution.
Now, you just touched on a word there that I wanted to dive a bit deeper on, about the word rare, because we know the team is now starting to pivot and say that it's not going to be the amount of, it's actually going to be the amount of ships that make something rare, and not just, the price of it or the hierarchy.
There is still the problem of manufacturing difficulty, So there was also a connection between the current rarity level to actually the how hard it would be then to produce them. So I would be interested to see how they want to match the two things together, because if suddenly, I don't know, the Thimble airbike, maybe it will be super cheap to be done, also it is not in the low risk area. So it would be interesting, for instance, to see that. So it is hyper common to have the airbag, but how hard would be to produce it comparatively to, I don't know, the X4 or something that is much more. So that's still an unknown variable.
Yeah. It's so hard to make decisions when you don't know all the different variables. Like, I don't know what I should be buying. If we can craft it later on, people are going to buy it more. I have no idea. Oh man.
Yeah, sure.
And this is also the distribution of the ships, for instance. You can see where the game loop is not clearly defined, or no one actually knows how it will look like. Then you see also a distribution that looks like that. Now, an example is one could be the rescue stuff. So a talk that I had, it was also these decks that is, I guess, the Red Hand faction of Thor, that they wanted to specialize on support and rescue, but they didn't have so much popularity momentum.
Yeah.
So that might be something. For instance, the data running itself, no one knows how
no
it
one
works.
knows. Exactly.
And there is no hauler right now, so it would be interesting to also know those. So I guess the game loop is important. Bounty hunting is super low. If you think about that, bounty hunting in other games is clear how it would look like, but in Star Atlas, no one knows when will happen and how it will be. So that could be also a driver.
Yeah, they're definitely, like, people having the information would influence what ships they buy. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next. Right, so we have a whole bunch of numbers here. We've got some fuel, food, ammunition, different numbers. Our tools on the right-hand side, are they going to be the most in demand, do you think? Is that the best thing people should start crafting? Maybe I actually think not, maybe something else.
Well, the thing is that when you think about profitability of Earth 4 resources, you check how much market there is on that. Therefore, the consumption of tooling is definitely on a good shape. Maybe bullets could be another idea, but I believe that you don't want to pick the most mainstream resource to be researched, just second best one, and exactly.
Right.
Which would mean that you have less demand and therefore higher revenue streams. So that's the interpretation. Unfortunately, there is not clear trend for that at the moment. We need to see over the time. And a factor that we didn't observe properly is any staking, as it is not clear how it will look like, how much will the supply be there. Right now, we don't see any clear trend on that. But yeah, probably in the next months, we will definitely observe an interesting behavior also to get which of the resources actually is leading the profitability shape.
Yeah, so to continue on this, on the bottom hand side here, we do have a whole bunch of graphs here that this kind of represents the usage of all the different R4s. Can you tell us a bit more about what's happening here? Is it, if it's above 0, then it's being used more? If it's below 0, it's not being used but still being bought? What's actually happening here? Can you elaborate on this, please?
Yeah, right. So it's the number of resources that are bought from the market minus the number that is used for refill the fleets. So if we see a positive number, then people are buying more than they actually use. So it's a stockpiling in that resource. And if we see a negative number, then they are using their holdings actually to refill and not buying anything new. So we see that there's a little bit of stockpiling going on. But if you aggregate those numbers, the values in US dollars are still quite low. So it's not much going on. At the moment, we are monitoring. I think, if I believe correctly, they are about $10,000 for each resource in total for all the players. So that's not much. Yeah. That's really nothing. So I think we keep on monitoring and see what happens if Scream is coming closer, and especially when we know more about Scream, how resources are handled there, and then we will see some interesting things here. At the moment it's just data to look at, and
Yeah, it's probably too early of an economy to make any conclusions from this, right? And it's $10,000. That's nothing. That's like a small amount. That's a bucket, nothing at all.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So let's go on to our next slide here, where we can see the firepower. And I know Aephian was helping. We did that small document that showed the different firepowers, but we see a whole bunch of different stats here. We see Mud, Oni, Öster, and the different players in the faction. Tell us a bit more about how you actually ended up getting these numbers, please, Strategico.
Yeah, so the first thing, let's say the key algorithm used is the one that Aephian provided in relation to firepower calculation. We have a web page which give a number assigned to each ship, and by querying the Solana nodes, we are able to know every wallet that exists that is signed in for a faction, which ship has, and therefore it is pretty easy to then aggregate and find some KPIs. In that case, is the firepower. In the future, we might use something else, but in that case, you need to imagine just a score attached to each player, given the amount of ships that are held by its public key. Exactly. And so clear, we know that the MAD faction is the one with the most players after Onis, and that's the interesting part, that although Onis have more players, we see that the MAD faction has the much value in terms of firepower, which is probably relevant in Scream. The most interesting part of this analysis was definitely the amount of players without any ship. You can see on the 1, 2, 3, 4 on the row. So you see we are above the 50% for each of ones, and this means that, so our idea is, or at least is that we have maybe multiple players, like these scholar accounts, where basically a player has multiple wallets just to have a feet in the door for each faction in case something is going wrong in one other. But this is actually, we cannot, this is something we will never know until we don't have a unique identification of players. So we don't know if it's churn, or we don't know if it's just this kind of behavior. We don't know the share of that, but still we know that is a very big chunk of that. And then and then the other important metric is to see which is the average player, which is the type of fleet that this average player has. And that's the point where Oni is going down. So in Oni, we have a lot of players, but the amount of firepower for each player is less than other factions, and this would significantly impact and the Scream gameplay.
Now, I just wanted to take a small second here to break some further information down here, just to clarify again. So you can see on the right-hand side that the Oysters have 63% of them, all the accounts in Star Atlas Metaverse who are Oysters, do not have a single ship in them, do not have a single fleet in them. And we can see the Ernie as well, even more than half of them. So a lot of these accounts are alt accounts, which is kind of not surprising, because we can see a lot of other games where they have different accounts with different characters because they want to experience the game differently. But like at the end of the day, people will just go to the account that hopefully has the best rewards, because we know that it's going to be a slice of the pie. And if there's too many people in this pie, you get a small amount. If there's less people in this pie, you get a whole much more amount, right? So what do you guys think is going to happen here? Do you think people are going to switch around and go to different accounts?
It is. Could be interesting because they will balance it out, as we know. So the rewards, it's interesting how many active players are in each faction. So here we are seeing, okay, MUD faction is quite strong, but they will balance it out a little bit with the rewards, and that would also be interesting to see. What the other factions will gain out of that.
I generally think many people don't understand how the rewards will actually work, because they'll have like one specific day and there's this amount of tokens to go out. Once you play a game with loyalty points, you get a fraction of those tokens. And if there's 1 million people in your faction, you're only going to get a small amount. If there's only 100 people in your faction, you're going to get a much larger percentage, right? So that's currently how... That's currently how the rewards are set up to operate. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I think it's possible that we see numbers like in one faction you earn double with the same time invested in the game than in another faction. That should be possible. And it would be interesting to see how this will balance out.
The other side of the coin is also the resource collection, the mining process. If you have a few people in a big area, imagining that you can have like a fixed area where no other faction can conquer, at that moment the density of players in this area will be less, and therefore you will have more resources to mine.
That's true.
And that could be very beneficial.
Yeah.
In that case, if people with in a small faction invest in industry ships, mining, refining, and so on, that could give at the end the most benefits besides the loyalty points structure. Yeah,
right.
That's a great point. I probably think that's more advantageous to have your own little section where no one goes to because there's not many people in your faction. You get monopoly of like a whole bunch of resources. I think that's better, to be honest, than the loyalty points in the Atlas. Let everyone else fight over there. I'm just going to collect my resources and sell at a premium on the market. That's what I'd be doing.
Plus resources collection might persist also in the future, while loyalty points are much more scrim oriented. Therefore, for people that are much more interested to the long game, the real game, not the real game, but let's say the UE5 game, then this will benefit much their account on the long term.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. That's really good. I think that's a good time to end it, my friends. This has been really great, really kind of insightful into the data and analytics of Star Atlas. So I personally, I want to say thank you very much for educating me a bit more. I'm going to give the floor to you guys. So Victor, do you have any last words to anyone in Aephian or anyone in Star Atlas, or anything else you want to share for us?
No, I mean, happy to be here, and I'm interested and really happy that the showroom is coming up. I think we need adoption. That is what the numbers are showing. I think some things really look good, but we are lacking, of course, on the adoption side. And I really hope that with the showroom that we can look at our ships, go in there, use them a little bit, and that's important, I think.
Yeah, it's super important. We need that immersion part of it. Stratugo, my friend, any last words for us?
Yeah, for me, the signal that the Star Atlas team is right now focusing on delivery is usually where amazing things are coming up. So I'm super happy that because they tended always to be doing too many topics at the same time. I really enjoyed the fact that they are right now bringing the ball to
honing it down into the showroom.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been MetaVerse Explorer, Stratugo, Victor, Aephian, first Aephian Data Runners. They're going to be making some really good analytical insights for you guys in the Star Atlas community. So make sure you follow them, thank them in the Star Atlas Discord and Aephian as well. We'll end it here. Thank you very much, guys, for coming. Ciao for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.